Welcome everybody to this Pharmacy Professional Community Town Hall meeting. My name is Faye Burrows, and I'd particularly like to welcome all of those that are joining for the first time. So thank you very much for coming along to this. To introduce the current and incoming professional community leadership group. We have a few membership statistics for you. Some highlights for the meeting in Toronto in April. And then looking forward to the rest of 2026 with something and what's happening for the rest of the year. And then we have some guest presentations from Woody Lincoln and Haifa Lyster about getting started in research. And there should be plenty of time for discussion and questions. So please, if you have any questions, thoughts, anything you'd like to share, pop it in the chat or unmute your mic and let us know your questions. Okay. So this is the current pharmacy professional community team. My name is Faye Burrows. I'm a heart-lung transplant pharmacist from St Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, Australia, and I'm the current representative for the Lung Interdisciplinary Network Committee. And I'll let everyone else introduce themselves. So Tara.
Hi, I'm Tara Rackley. I am a heart transplant pharmacist at Allegheny General in Pittsburgh in the United States, and I am the current representative to the Advanced Heart Failure and Transplant Interdisciplinary Network Steering Committee. Oh, goodness.
I'll go next. My name's Amanda and Jamie. I'm the representative for the MCS committee. I'm actually rotating off, and somebody else is Ian's on, and he'll be taking my spot. And I am heart and MCS at Centera Norfolk General Hospital in Norfolk, Virginia.
And hi, everybody. I am Heidi Brink. I'm a pharmacist at Nebraska Medicine, and I am the representative on the PBD for PAH and CTEPH network.
Hey everybody, my name is Bailey Colvin. I'm advanced heart failure and pulmonary hypertension pharmacist at WVU Medicine in West Virginia in the United States. And I'm the early career and trainee representative. So anybody who's been within 6 years of training, you kind of fit in that bucket.
Thank you, everyone. And I would also like to make a special mention to Patricia Ging, not an official member of in helping with the webinar development and the academy planning. So thank you, Patricia. And now I'd like to introduce the incoming professional community representatives. So as Amanda said, Amanda and myself are rotating off the pharmacy PC at the end of the meeting in Toronto, and Ian and Krista will be our replacements. So Ian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Ian Hollis. I work at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. I'm primarily employed now by the School of Pharmacy, although my career up to this point has been entirely in the advanced heart failure space, including LVAD and some heart transplant. And so when I do patient care, I focus now just on advanced heart failure and LVAD. And so I'll be joining the MCS Interdisciplinary Network Steering Committee.
Thank you. And Krista?
Hey guys, my name is Krista Walter. I am currently a lung transplant pharmacist at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan in the United States. And I'm excited to be coming on as the pharmacy representative for the Advanced Lung Failure and Transplantation Steering Committee.
Welcome. Okay. So I'd also like to give a shout out to some of our other pharmacists that are representing the pharmacy professional community at all levels of ISHLT, including Haifa Lyster, who is on the board of directors, and Mike Schuller, who's chair of the Statements and Publication Oversight Committee. So as you can see, pharmacists are integral to the organization at all levels of ISHLT. So the pharmacy community is tiny but mighty. We make up a very small 4% of the professional community breakdown. As you can see, the vast majority of members belong to the cardiology or cardiothoracic surgery professional communities. So I'd like to say that pharmacy punches above its weight with our contributions. And in terms of membership demographics, again, 61% of ISHLT members classify themselves as physicians, 25% non-physicians, which is where we would sit. Region, 74% coming from North America, 15% from Europe. And as you can see again, sorry, I can't see this behind my screen. The Advanced Heart Failure and Transplantation Interdisciplinary Network has 51% of the members, but I guess for us in pharmacy, a lot of us sit across several of those interdisciplinary networks. So we sort of represent across all of those. Okay. So last year in November, the Pharmacy PC hosted a webinar entitled The Protocol Paradox, Are We Treating Guidelines or Patients? With some expert speakers giving us some great insights into managing our patients either individually or according to protocol. That is now available to watch on YouTube via the ISHLT. And again, with our webinar, 116 people registered, 35 for live attendance, and to date, 151 YouTube viewers. So thank you very much to those who contributed to that webinar. Okay, so moving on to the annual meeting in April in Toronto. I understand that the early bird registration is closing, I think, today. So if you haven't already registered, this is your opportunity to get involved and come and join us in Toronto. These are the pharmacy representatives on the Programme Planning Committee. So Jennifer Day representing PVD, Maddie Morrison for the Lung Programme Committee, Katrina Ford for MCS, and Adam Cochran and Lily Carlos representing the Heart Planning Committee. I have asked Maddie to say a few words about how the programme planning process works and some little bit more about the programme planning process. So Maddie.
Yeah, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. This was my second year on the planning committee, and it's such a cool opportunity to see all that goes into planning the actual meeting. And I feel like I have such better insight into symposium submission now and kind of what to do going forward. And I think getting pharmacy programming represented at the in each year's conference really starts with this group of people at our symposium, kind of like brainstorming meetings. And so Faye had just asked me to walk through what the selection process looks like for that. So there will be a meeting, I can't remember what month it happens in, but with this same group in this same format where people kind of toss ideas around and get feedback about symposium submissions for the next year's ISHLT. And those all get sent in to a big pool that are then graded by peers. So just as you can volunteer to be like an abstract reviewer through ISHLT, you can also volunteer to be a symposium reviewer. And so that is just volunteers that are members of ISHLT, and all of the symposium submissions are graded by those volunteers and given scores, and comments are entered into this kind of big form. And that feedback is then forwarded on to the planning committee members. And we get a big Excel document with all the scores and the comments and kind of review it ourselves. And I will say now, having seen this happen twice, it's kind of rare that a symposium is accepted in its entirety. It's almost like you kind of look for themes among the submissions and see the things that from those volunteer reviewers are very popular or seem to be timely. And then from that, kind of bits and pieces of the symposium are often reassembled into new ones. There were a handful, I think, this year that were kept almost entirely intact, but usually the ones that make it through untouched are very novel or kind of unique, or something that is really like a hot topic pertinent that everyone's kind of buzzing about. And so the symposium are then kind of chopped up and the sessions are reassembled, maybe taking like some of the most provocative or most interesting talks from the different symposium that all apply to that same topic. And then moderators, speakers are selected, trying to give kind of priority to people who submitted a symposia or people who were recommended as speakers in the symposia. And so I think that if you're thinking about, or you want to get more involved in ISHLT or interested in being a speaker or considered to be a moderator or something, definitely working with peers to submit a symposium is a great way to work towards being included in the programming. Is that kind of what you wanted, Faye, or do you want me to talk about anything else?
Oh, it looks like we've lost Faye for a moment.
Okay.
Let's, we'll give her a minute to jump back on.
But I think that was a really good explanation of programming. And I just urge anybody,
So sorry,
if you have an invitation to be on programming, take it with both hands. Sorry, Faye.
No, thank you very much, Patricia. Sorry, everyone, my internet completely dropped out there and I lost you. Thank you so much, Maddie, for your insights. That was really helpful. Sorry, let me, oh, okay, we're on from the start. Excuse me. Go back to everybody. So, hoping to see as many of you as possible at the ISHLT 26th meeting in Toronto. There will be a pharmacy professional community reception, which will be held on Thursday, the 23rd of April at 5:30 p.m. It will be a social reception, so refreshments will be available, and a great opportunity to meet the pharmacy professional community team, to network and to meet other members of the pharmacy community, and to have a chat with us also about how to get maybe more involved or find out a little bit more about how I hope to see you there. There are also the events this year in Toronto, and maybe Bailey, if you'd like to just talk.
Yes, so like I said, early career and trainee for ISHLT specifically is within 6 years of training. I know that's different from some pharmacies associations. So if you're within 6 years of training or in training, you're welcome to join us at some of these events. We're going to have a kind of like meet and greet or welcome reception on the 21st from 6 to 7 p.m. And even before that, there's actually a trainee workshop that several members of the pharmacy committee here are involved in. That's one of the pre-conference day events. So if you haven't registered yet, check out the pre-conference events. There's a couple that would be interesting, I think, for pharmacists. One is pharmacy, and then this other is the trainee workshop. And if you have registered, I'm sure you can go back and add things on in some way. And then, like I said, there's a welcome reception. All are invited there. It's just kind of a happy hour, if you will. There are drinks and hors d'oeuvres provided, which is always nice. And then the mentor meetup allows you to meet not only some representatives from pharmacy, it'll be Faye and Ian this year if you want to chat with them. They'll be available. But also, ISHLT is great because it's very interdisciplinary. So if you want to talk with people from other professional communities, from other countries, they'll all be here. So it's kind of a great networking event. I know a lot of people have met others first by going to this meeting. So that's on Wednesday, but looking forward to seeing you all there.
Thank you, Bailey. So there are pre-conference workshops on the Tuesday 21st. As Bailey said, there's the ISHLT training workshop, but also I would like to put a big plug out for the very first Pharmacy Academy, which has been arranged in conjunction with the infectious diseases professional community. from pathogens to pharmacokinetics, optimizing outcomes in thoracic transplant. So this program has been put together by myself, Patricia Ging, and Daryl. Sorry, Daryl, I'm going to mispronounce your surname, Ng. And we've got some really great speakers from across the globe. Foundations and Transplant Immunology Infection Risk. There's a great session on managing patients with critical care, complex patients in our ICUs, managing their medications. Rejection and post-transplant complications, prevention, prophylaxis, and emerging diagnostics, and viral and fungal infections in transplantation. So a really, really great program, and I would very much like to encourage you to sign up. We've had some great engagement with this so far, so places are limited, so get on board and get signed up.
And as Bailey said, if you somehow missed that this was on, it's really easy to add it onto your registration. So do that. You know, we've a great program, and if you've got any other colleagues, you know, it covers lung, heart, MCS, a lot of interesting material and great speakers.
Thanks, Patricia. Okay, so moving forward for the rest of this year and planning for 2027. Pretty much at the end of the meeting in Toronto, we start to look forward to planning for the 2027 meeting in Sydney. And I know it's a long way for a lot of you, but I would very much like to encourage you to come and visit my home city. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's going to be a really, really great meeting. So whilst you are at ISHLT 2026, have a think about what was presented in those symposium sessions, what was maybe missing from a pharmacy perspective, what you might like to see, and then have keep an eye out for the symposium planning calls, which will be run through both the pharmacy professional community and the IDNs. And that's a great opportunity to bounce your ideas off other people, get some ideas for other speakers, how to make your symposiums more diverse. So that's a really great opportunity to get involved. And as Maddie said, we can only work with the symposium sessions that are submitted. So if we want some good pharmacy content, it's the pharmacists that are going to have to put in those symposium proposals. So if you have any questions about symposium planning, please do get in touch with the pharmacy PC representatives. There are some upcoming standards and guidelines. So last year we identified documents that were either needed to be newly written or updated. And there is a call out now to get involved with the writing task forces. So applications for the current round of documents close on the 10th of February. This is, again, a really great way to get involved with ISHLT, work with some leaders in the field and get your name on a publication. So I'd really recommend getting involved with that. And then this November will be another Pharmacy PC webinar. So we're looking for ideas for content, or if you're interested in being a speaker, please let us know. Again, there's potential for collaboration with other PCs as well. So if you have any ideas about that, please let us know. And oh yes, one more plug. The Journal of Heart-Lung Transplant is got some specially themed issues for 2026. And this one that's going to be published in December, Personalized Medicine in Thoracic Transplantation, is perhaps one where pharmacy will fit best. I know it can be difficult for us pharmacists to get our work published in the Journal of Heart-Lung. So if you have anything that you're working on in that personalized medicine space, this will be a really great place to maybe try and submit an article and get that published in Journal of Heart-Lung. So thank you. That's my little bit over and done with. And I'd now like to hand over to our guest speakers, starting with Woody Lincoln, who's going to talk about getting started in research. I'll stop sharing. Thank you, Woody.
All right, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Great. All right. So yeah, my name is Richard Lincoln. I do prefer to go by Woody. I'm currently the clinical pharmacy specialist in cardiothoracic transplant. So I both do heart and lung transplant at Barnes Jewish Hospital in St. Louis. And I'm here to just give an early career perspective on how to get started in research. And my goal is to really aim this kind of talk or my like tips and tricks is really to newer practitioners, either still in residency or coming out of residency, fresh early career. Yes, slide. All right, so a little bit about me. Just born and raised in Cleveland, did some pharmacy school in Cincinnati, and did my postgraduate training, first year residency at the University of Cincinnati, and then solid organ transplant residency at the Houston Methodist. Prior to my current role, I did work as an advanced heart failure, MCS, and heart transplant pharmacist at Banner University in Phoenix for about 3 years. And like I said, I'm currently one of the heart and lung transplant pharmacists at my current institution. I just put up here a brief history of my research experience. I did a lot of research both in pharmacy school and residency, and now early post training, being only 3, now soon to be 4 years out of training. I've kept up with research since being a student and still keep up with it to today. So I will mention that my talk will be a little short today. So I do encourage you to reach out with questions afterwards, because just the engagement, the type of topic it is, I feel like it'd be great to have like more engagement from our group. So just some tips I would say to incorporate research in your daily practice. And this one I have up here, I have 3 big overarching tips, but this first one here I want to focus actually on a little bit is just how do you find project ideas? I think that was one thing that I initially struggled with coming out of residency. Is there's a lot of projects that were already proposed to us as early career pharmacists, or you were kind of assigned to do a project. And now coming out of residency or coming fresh out of training is like, well, how do I develop these or research projects that either my former preceptors have done or former pharmacists have developed? And I think some of the biggest things I could always, I think when I was creating this is how I continue to still be doing active research in my clinical practice, is to just develop great relationships with your multidisciplinary team, and that could help you with other things down the line, such as like project development, management, data collection, data validation. The other 2 on this how to find project ideas is actually just be very like questioning, being inquisitive, ask like why do we do these certain practices, or how did this practice come about? Have we looked at this practice? Like, is this a unique practice that we do that you currently do at your current center that might be pretty interesting to research and publish? And like how you could also get ideas is actually to participate in like hospital-wide like quality improvement committees or other hospital committees, just to see what's going on in your hospital, particularly maybe to your transplant or advanced organ failure diseases. So just an example from my personal career after residency training is like how I found this a certain project idea. So very early on at my first job post-residency, actually I was in my first heart transplant QAPI meeting, and I saw that we had higher rates of patient or early cellular rejection, or patients who had who received perioperative plasmapheresis and thymoglobulin induction. This was a pretty unique practice that we had that I had not seen anywhere. And when I asked our providers, is like, hey, is this a practice that other centers do? They were unsure as well about using this treatment strategy. And like I said, I noticed that this was a unique practice. So I asked the team, like, hey, these patients that are receiving these 2 therapies, can I just look into them, see maybe we could optimize a protocol? I was only going into this thinking, let's maybe, make it a little small med use evaluation, create an updated protocol, see if there's anything that we could optimize. Then after I presented like some initial results to our heart transplant team at the next QAPI meeting, it actually led to a protocol change, and then actually 2 whole projects down the line involving plasmapheresis and perioperative plasmapheresis and thymoglobulin induction. And actually just that one question of, hey, can I look into this, ultimately led actually into 2 full-blown research projects for me that I published as abstracts at last year's ISHLT. So I think that is just, a really cool experience I had, and something I would hope new pharmacists coming out would just be like, be inquisitive, ask questions, because maybe these ideas that you have, or one small question that you think would be an MUE, could turn into 2 pretty decently sized projects. Second tip I want to say is, especially for our fresh pharmacists out of training, is you have a now hopefully larger team, or you are not a resident where you have to be the primary person doing your research project. You can get a lot more help in your projects, whether it comes down to like research study design, question development, statistic help. Also, another thing that I do recommend is actually like getting involved with precepting, whether you don't want to start immediately doing a big project up front right out of training. Offer to be like a co-preceptor or I guess a co-preceptor on a resident or a student's research project, just to kind of get your foot in the door of how to also do research from a different side and get more involved in the processes at your current hospital. And then, like I said, utilizing your research team, whether it's other pharmacists within your team, or I'm currently working on a project right now where I had one of my pulmonology fellows help validate some like biopsy data for me. Which is really nice because it saved me a lot of time into doing some chart digging and research, and then also gets the team involved and they feel more involved in the project as well. And then just some additional tips as just kind of a random catch-all things that I do recommend is sometimes we might have great ideas, or a great idea for a project, but it might be too early to start studying it. Or one like that last example I had where we created a new protocol and then we develop more research into it. Write these project ideas down. Share it with your other colleagues about these project ideas, because maybe some of you have the same project ideas that you could collaborate on and work together instead of just doing one person doing an entire project. This is one that the second bullet point here: not all research needs to become a manuscript. I think that's pretty important because the research can be a pretty big and large like undertaking. Just getting started with medication use evaluations or protocol developments that turn into these small projects. They don't have to be these large manuscripts that to get you, because those could be intimidating. Start with something small. And then the last tip I really have is just don't overdo it. I know coming fresh out of training, we're can be very excited, I want to do everything. Let me help out with everything. I think the biggest thing is, since a lot of these projects are very time consuming, is to just, maybe start slow, start with one project at a time. And then once you feel comfortable doing one project or precepting a project and being a primary, slowly build up your daily, not daily, how much projects you are currently involved with. There's no right number to do it. I find myself doing at least 2 projects a year be perfect amount for me. Each person's different. It's just a tip just to say, like, it's good to be a part of projects, but you don't need to be on every single project or do everything all at once. And like I said, I just want to keep it kind of brief and open. So hopefully at the end of our next presenter, there's a lot of questions I could also ask or answer for you guys. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask Woody now, or we can move forward with Haifa's presentation and save questions to the end? Feel free to unmute your mic.
Hey Woody, how you doing? Great presentation. This is Daryl Nanny. I just had a quick question. What would you suggest for new practitioners? Oh, you can't even see me. Well, what would you suggest for new practitioners coming into research, I guess, to strengthen their skills in terms of like doing statistics and doing the stats themselves, or should they seek help? Or what would you recommend for these for new practitioners in that sense?
Great question. I think actually where like my training and early career has taken me so far is every hospital I've worked in has been completely different. So in residency, PGY2, we had a mini tab that we were expected to learn ourselves and do all of our stats that way. My first job out of residency, we didn't have any sort of stats program or any data collecting tool like RedCap. It was just an Excel sheet, but we had a statistician on site that we could basically consult and help us out with running our statistics. And now at my current center, we are a different stats program, so SPSS. I think my biggest tip is find it's kind of almost like using like a mentor. Find someone who has a lot of experience within your center, whether it's a pharmacist within the same transplant field, critical care, or even non-pharmacist colleagues like physicians who may do a lot more research and see what kind of stats help they can offer. I do always encourage, if you have the ability to have a stats program, to learn it yourself, because if you have maybe a statistician or other people who do stats at your program, they might have a lot of other projects to do. And also, I think also just learning how to do it, the stats yourself, makes you understand stats better and project design better. Yeah. So I would say that I think basically the biggest thing to get out of that is just see what is currently done at your current hospital or current program where you work at, and then reach out to mentors or people who have a lot of experience, see what is currently there, and then get yourself resources. Like right now, I'm learning how to do SPSS for the project I just mentioned I was talking about, so I could learn how to do it, but having those mentors and other support staff will be greatly helpful.
Yeah, that's very true. And SPSS, I think it still costs money. I believe R is free. So if you wanted to look into utilizing R.
Yeah, we have select licenses at my hospital, but yes, I know there are other free stats programs out there as well.
Hey Woody, my name is Erica. I'm a pharmacist out at ECU Health Medical Center in Greenville, North Carolina. That was a wonderful presentation. This is a huge topic in our institution all the time. I have been put in charge of helping research and development of research. So these are questions that are, great answers to all these questions. The question I had is when you're dealing with new clinicians or even seasoned clinicians, how do you guide them on finding time to promote to research when we know all of our time is very, very sparse these days? And so what kind of guidance do you give?
I think some of the biggest guidance that I use for myself and when I've been precepting residents, so I'll say it's more from the early career perspective, is I'd say a lot of time just comes out to blocking your day out. I know it sounds very like simple, just block your day out for like an hour or two. If you're knowing you're getting yourself involved in a research project, is at the end of the day, you have an extra hour to work on projects. Maybe today is your research project day, and then the next day is whatever other committee or non-research stuff you need to do. That is one thing I've always done and what I encourage other residents to do. I'll be honest, I don't really have much other tips outside of that. But I think just making like blocks in your schedule, like committed blocks every so often dedicated to research time, whether it's before the workday, after the workday, is I think a good way to at least get yourself be able to do research and still be actively involved with it instead of just putting it on the back burner.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions, thank you so much, Woody. We might move on to Haifa Lyster, who is going to present a more, how do we phrase it, research at a more senior level. So Haifa has completed a PhD and she's going to share some of her research experience with us.
Might help if I unmuted myself. Thanks very much, Woody. That's a great introduction. And it is exactly the normal way to kind of get into research is kind of, there is no one way of doing it. So if this moves through. So I guess a lot of things when I try and support people to do research, and also what I found when I first started is, those barriers is trying to find that time to engage into it, to have that time where you've got the bandwidth to think about it when you're not inundated with your day-to-day job. That limited funding for research especially for pharmacists, that is getting better here in the UK. I'm hoping it is getting better already worldwide. I think it's already pretty good in the US already. And limited expertise and support, low confidence, and that changing of a research culture where you say the word research and sometimes the juniors run for cover, and it's trying to make them think that there are small starts that you can do, and then once you kind of dip your toe into it, you either are completely what's the word love it so much that you decide to do everything unfunded. So there are different pathways. This is what a UK NIHR, which I think is similar to the US's NIH, but I don't know in terms of the pathways. So the bits I'm going to be talking about are the bits that are circled, which is the doctoral and the postdoctoral. And there are fellowships that we would be competing with physicians and the wider healthcare professionals. And then they've now started having, and I can say this because I know there are a couple of UK peeps on this town hall. There are calls now that are specific for, as they call it, underserved professionals communities, and that includes pharmacists, nurses, allied health professionals. So some of them are being targeted to those. And what you find, and I don't know how it is internationally, but in the UK, you tend to find that pharmacists don't tend to apply, whether it's a case of they have that imposter syndrome, don't think that they're going to get it, so they just don't apply. But what we do find from the stats is that when pharmacists do apply, they have a very good chance of getting it, because by the time I guess we've decided we're going to apply, we've thought things through, as pharmacists do, every little step and things like that. So we should put our head above the parapet occasionally and actually put our chances into getting it. So there are also different funding streams available. You can go to charities. Sometimes their own institutes have charities. And as Woody said, different institutes have different opportunities in there. Some have a lot more funding for research fellowships or pump priming projects. Then you can go for like national awards like Wellcome or MRCs. Bigger charities, industry, pharma will sponsor also investigator-led studies, obviously if it fits in their kind of portfolio of research. Sometimes they actually look for things that aren't, so that they can kind of say that they're not influencing research. And there are calls for fundings. In the UK, we have calls that go out by the NHR, MRC, Wellcome, and so forth. And I'm going to put a plug in. ISHLT have calls for funding, some small awards and potentially big awards as well. So there's nothing to say that as pharmacists, if you fit in some of those calls, not to, to consider it as well. So it is important to have good support because it can be quite lonely if you're in your own sphere, especially in your own institute. So having coaching or mentors that are good, that can kind of pick you up, because sometimes you hit a wall, or the model or the stats doesn't show what you'd like it to say, and things. So you have to kind of take a bit of a breath, put it down, and come back to it. What I call by research surgeries, there are often either societies or professional groups that can offer drop-in sessions, quite often free, and sometimes that you might have to pay a nominal fee, where you can go in with your research idea and they help you to formulate it. Making links with health education institutes, so universities and other academic institutes, and collaborations and networks. Now I'm going to say this. So I went to one collaborative network, which is with our partner university, and it was a bit of a speed dating event. So for those that are a bit older, know that. So they had the academics all sitting down, and they had those that wanted to do or interested in bits of research go around, and you speak to each of the academics to understand and see if you can find something commonality that maybe you hadn't thought of, and then you started building links. And actually from that they developed 3 projects that are still ongoing. I'm toying and speaking with a group that do drones for supplying medicines and supplies and blood samples. So, and I would never have thought that before going to that event. So I guess my path is not straightforward. I think maybe people think that, you do things linearly. There is no linear one way of getting into research. So once I became a consultant pharmacist, so before around the time, is, as Woody said, you take the opportunities. If you're invited to co-author as a junior partner, take it, because it's an experience. And if you've got good people that you're co-authoring with, they will give you tips to support you through it. And then as you start getting more used to it, then you give back and you support someone else that's coming through as a junior. You get a chance to review articles. They're a good way of also dipping your toe in. And as Faye said, there's now opportunities to become editors as well. With Journal Heart Lung and Journal Heart Lung Open, there's a call out for it. And the same goes for authoring chapters. Read lots, find the gaps, find what interests you, because there's nothing worse than sitting there trying to write a paper on something you're really not interested in. International roles. ISHLT is an amazing community. You've got opportunities to have different roles that you can kind of contribute with. Those are ones that I've had over the last 20 odd years. So that says how long I've been. And then you develop collaborations, both within your own institute, nationally, then internationally. And then you will find a little niche that is the bit that makes you kind of, light up and smile. And then when you find someone like-minded, then, it's just great, because then you can start building up those kind of collaborations. Then you start to develop and supervise either master's projects, or if you're dipping your toe into things, maybe you could co-supervise a PhD, maybe a subject expert on one of the chapters, for example. And then, like I've done now collaborations across Europe, in a number of countries. Australia, not in Sydney though yet, Faye, but we are going to work on that. And in America. So I've got a few collaborations in America going, in particular with the University of Utah. So what I decided to do, because I thought it was a great idea at the time, to do was my PhD part-time, not funded, and to do that with my day job. Because I thought my son had grown up. This is the perfect time. If I'm going to do it, this is the time I was going to do it. I was suddenly going to have time. No. Anyway, I've managed to do that, and I'm now in my postdoctoral, but I guess what I'm going to start to say is really important, getting a supportive mentor or two. I can't stress that enough. And I have got a mentor who's also very active in ISHLT, Professor Reed, and she has been a mentor all the way through, ups and downs in PhDs, and has continued to be one of my postdoctoral ones. So you start off with some more retrospective studies. Maybe one of the consultants or registrar asks you to collect some data with them. Just make sure your name goes on the paper at the end. Small roles, and then you start, most of the time is going to be in your own time initially. And then I had one consultant who is now retired, and anything that had a drug in it, he then just went, Haifa, do you want to join? And that's kind of, if you accept something, deliver on it, because then that means that they will ask you to come again, and then you end up leading on your own projects. So I have a wide range of topics, from sirolimus as renal sparing, to antifungal TDM, to adherence in clinics, to milrinone TDM. I think we're probably not many centres actually monitor milrinone levels. We do, because we use it outside intensive monitoring, and looking at RITG outcomes after transplant. Then, like I said, I decided to commence my PhD part-time. It is a research training. It is a training throughout how all those years. You're still classed as an early career researcher, even after you finish it, which is quite heartbreaking when you think that you've gone through all of that. You'd kind of think you're at least an okay researcher, but you're still classed in academic terms, still early careers. So my one was Does ECMO alter the pharmacokinetics of anti-infectives in adult critically ill patients? I focused on antifungals. I did lab work with ex vivo ECMO experiments, which meant I'd have to go in the lab at 3 o'clock in the morning because that was the next time that the sample needed to be taken. But again, you don't do this. It's making sure we had a right team. I had fantastic perfusionists that helped me because there was no way in the world I was going to be able to set up those kits and the circuits and things. And you learn with that. I learned new skills. I know how to do PBPK modeling as well as POP-PK modeling. Develop more collaborations, and now also in Europe. And as we said about stats and things, so I've learnt how to code. My son thought I was really cool because I was coding. I was copying and pasting code and adjusting it and things. But if you start early on and you put enough time into it, you know, I'm learning how to code better than I did beforehand. But it does give you that little bit of additional status when you do research, especially if you're looking for grants later on, because they will look for someone who's had a PhD. Not necessarily, I think it's the right that's the right decision, because I think there are lots of good researchers that don't necessarily go down that route. But if you're looking at trying to get funded grants later on from big organizations such as NIH or Wellcome or MRC, then actually having a PhD under your belt makes you at a good stead, and having a good collaborative network. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have them as all pharmacists or physicians, having a mix of people that bring different things to your team. And I had a very interesting team. I had someone that was blue sky thinking. I had to keep bringing him back because every single time he'd want to change the goalpost. And I was like, no, we haven't got time to do any more experiments. We're now on to the next phase. So you do need sometimes that blue sky thinking, but you need people that can go and bring it back again. PhD part-time is not an easy option. It is rewarding because don't forget, it's over years. You have life events, you have competing pressures, you have your day job. So, and don't forget, 80% of a job in academia is around failure. You might fail to get a grant or things go wrong with your research, but when the successes happen, they're fantastic. If I had a model that worked and I got the graph to do what I wanted it to do, or I fixed the data so that it would, I was sending pictures to my supervisors at 2 in the morning. They were probably not even going to look at it, and they were probably humored me in the morning, but that buzz that comes with it, it's worked and it's fitted in there. You will always get imposter syndrome. If you don't get imposter syndrome, it means you're not pushing or challenging yourself. And doing research, PhD and above, at all levels, because you're always pushing yourself, you're always going to get that. The problems you find are your own. Your spare time becomes limited. I'm saying all the negatives, but actually it's buzzing when you've actually done it. It does take time. Should you do it? I would say 100% yes. And I know I was convincing Faye in September in Singapore. With the right supervisors and a topic that you really enjoy, no regrets at all. So yeah, that was just kind of showing, you know, I did try to get a fellowship. It was unsuccessful, but I wasn't prepared to wait for the next window. So I decided to go it. And then that doesn't necessarily mean, so I had little pots that helped. So for 1 year, I got a little bit of investigator led to help with the consumables so I could do my ex vivo experiments and for the assays. Then I got another little pot. The Pharmaceutical Society were having awards, and a little pot that gave me, I think it was a day and a half a week, protected time so that I can do some, like get some backfill and do some training courses. And that's why I said it's always 80% is around failure. I've now got a postdoctoral award. So I have, I guess, jumped in feet first. I do love it. If we're going to go back pearls, you do need to work out for yourself what you find interesting. So, you know, do find a subject that you're going to find interesting. You might have to start off with a few small things that you maybe not particularly interested in, but to get the foot in the door with the wider team. Read lots, get down and dirty with your data because no one's going to know that data better than you do. Work hard to become that expert so that people ask you then to come and collaborate with them, it really develops your resilience. And you get chance to, the networking always makes it better. There's that saying that research, as many other things in life, is standing on the shoulders of giants, and it is that kind of team. Get that right team behind you. Apply for funding. It doesn't have to be the big grants. Start off with small ones. If you're not really interested in doing it, you've dipped your toe, it's not for you, be a mentee. Sorry, be a mentor, like mentor somebody in their projects. And I think that is it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Haifa. You are already putting me off starting my PhD.
That was not the intention. I will talk to you later.
Does anyone have any questions for Haifa?
Stunned silence. I put everybody off. It wasn't meant to.
I just want to say big kudos to you, Haifa. I have a colleague, not a pharmacist, but a APP, like an advanced practice provider, who's going through her part-time PhD, and it is not for the faint of heart. So kudos to you for doing that. And I hope it's not for me either, but I hope you inspired someone, because even though it's not for me, I'm like sort of like, oh, should I do this? Because I thought you were very convincing. So
thank you, Maddie.
Haifa, as someone who has experienced the bitter disappointment of putting in for funding and getting knocked back, do you have any tips on how to create a great spiel for requesting funding?
So I mean, I know people say read what they're looking for and make sure you tick those ones, because sometimes and when you get the feedback, really read it. You won't read it initially because you'll be bruised. You put it down, you look at it a few weeks later, and then you go, it's like having a paper rejected. You need to go back in and then go back through it again, and then have a look and see which sections need strengthening and work on those sections. Sometimes it's just really bad luck. It was just very competitive. Other times it's you just need to work on one piece of it. Sometimes is you think you've got like a wonderful team because it's this massive professor, but what they read is that professor's got like 8 PhD students and doesn't have the time to support you. So just because they've got that name doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to give it to you as well. So you've got to make sure that they all bring something to it, and that they will actually, because the people that will score them are going to want to make sure that you've actually got the proper support networks to get you over the line, because they're going to give you the money, they want you to deliver.
Keep trying.
Yes.
Any other questions for Haifa? We've got some few comments here thanking both our speakers, or any other questions for Woody or anyone on the pharmacy community in the last sort of 5 minutes before we wrap up? Okay, well, yes.
Faye, I was just going to say that, make sure and make a collaboration with your local university. We always have students who are keen to do research, and if you've got some keen person who will just sit down and they're not getting distracted, and they will go through charts and they will pull the data and they will enter it into a spreadsheet and, even do data analysis, and all you have to offer in return is to give up that, like, I have to do every bit of this mentality, and share the glory, but it's absolutely well worth it.
That is absolutely true, Patricia. It's a great resource because quite often they're asking for projects. They've got students that need to do projects. So you've got projects. You may not have the time to do it, but yeah, and then supervising them is actually rewarding when you actually see them at the end produce their pieces of work.
And it's the piece of work you wanted done, and it was your idea, and there it is done. The other thing that's even better is that universities might have allocations in journals, in those open access journals that if they don't use, they lose. So, it can make publication a bit easier as well.
And hopefully inspire them to continue to be involved in research as well.
Well, there's obviously that, but I'm just selling the bit to us. It's the most sellable. Because fundamentally what we want from the research is that we find the correct answers so that we can help our patients. And, and the bit we don't have is time. We have ideas, we do not have time.
Any other comments or questions?
Hi. Everyone see me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Lydia. I'm new here, so I'm very proud to be part of this inspiring group. And I would like to thank all the presentations here. It was really, really inspiring. I'm a huge fan of Haifa. I think she doesn't know that, but I am. And as a person that really decided to take this part-time PhD journey as well, I would like to ask if how do you deal with the work-life balance? Because I think is one of the most challenging things to face in this journey as well. And thank you guys again for the space and invitation to be here.
So I'm going to say the easy answer, it's very, very difficult. And I guess what helps is if you can find a topic or a project that fits in with your clinical work. So I look after ECMO patients, so doing a study in ECMO patients meant it was much easier and I could get my colleagues to help support in terms of consenting and things like that. So having a PhD or a project that is within your own clinical area. I think, yeah, if I was going to try and do it part-time with no protected time and it meant I had to go to another hospital in another city, that kind of thing, that was never going to work. I would have had to have time for it. So I think having something within, and also within your own clinical area, you're the expert, you know where the questions are. So actually that makes more sense as well.
Great, thank you.
And with that, we are out of time. So I would like to take the opportunity to thank our invited speakers one last time. Haifa and Woody, thank you so much for your insights and contributions. And thank you everyone for joining this pharmacy town hall, and hope to see as many of you as possible in Toronto later this year. So thanks everyone. Bye.